and the same blood vessel, in this case the vein. So, and the arteries, when they come in, they divide. Whatever it is. At the end of the day, they go out. There is yet another vessel that controls fluid, which will be the lymphatic vessel. So I'm going to put it here. The lymphatic vessel also takes away fluid. So this is the interstitium. So this is the interstitial fluid. So let's now look at what is edema. Edema is the accumulation of water within the interstitium, and it swells, leading to a swelling. So what are the possible causes? This is the blood. So what is this now? This is the capillary. This is the capillary. So this is what? Plasma, which is going to be described as water. So if having understood this now, this is the cell. So let's now, if we have understood the structure that I just drew, a tissue is made up of what? Cells supplied with capillaries and lymphatic vessel, all of them submerged within the interstitial fluid. So, and we are talking about accumulation of fluid. Fluid can only accumulate if the amount of fluid entering into this tissue, if the amount of it is higher than the tissue drainage. If something causes this water to stagnate, then or cause excess water to move out of the blood. So inside this blood, you have proteins. You have proteins inside this blood in the capillary. You have proteins. These proteins are called albumin. And like I told us last time, oncotic pressure. So they are positively charged, while the glycoproteins on the surface of the endothelial cells of the capillary are also, they are negatively charged, while the surface of the endothelial cells, I hope you know that this line is made up of endothelial cells. I said it last class. So they are just like this. That line is like this. There are openings. If you do the histology of the capillaries, it's going to be like this. And we call this endothelial cells. So capillaries are single layer cells with openings. That's how it is, so that materials can live. So basically, I'm going to draw it like this as well. So let me now use this side to show how capillaries are. So this is now the capillaries, right? So which means the blood in the capillaries will be, okay, let me just put it this way. This is the blood capillary, so that it will be clear. Okay? That's the capillary now. So inside it you have what? You have what? You have the plasma. And also you have the plasma protein. You have the plasma proteins. You have the plasma proteins. These are the plasma proteins. I need to use a different color. These are the plasma proteins. So these plasma proteins are positively charged, negatively charged, and the endothelial cells are negatively charged as well. So they cannot leave. And if they cannot leave, while other solutes can easily leave, while other solutes equilibrate between blood and interstitium because they can exit and equilibrate, proteins remain in the plasma. And now because there is a difference created by the protein, so protein now is the additional solute that is inside the blood, while other solutes have distributed uniformly, both in blood and the interstitium. So because of that difference created by the protein, it has already created an osmotic gradient. So water is going to move from the tissue to the blood. So that the pressure exerted by that plasma protein is called the oncotic pressure, or what we call the colloid osmotic pressure. So because of the fact that it is inside the plasma, it's going to draw water from the interstitium into plasma. So oncotic pressure essentially draws water from the interstitial space into the blood. That is very good. That is the reason why the liver creates plasma proteins, to ensure that the amount of water in blood is normal. And when the amount of water in blood is normal, it maintains the blood volume. And when blood volume is maintained, it maintains blood pressure. So if any individual or any animal which liver cannot create enough proteins suffers from what we call hypoalbuminemia. And the first evidence of hypoalbuminemia is what? Low blood pressure. Because the blood volume will be low. And the next thing that happens is that the tissues start swelling. That's why in individuals that are deficient in proteins, you see them, their body is always swollen and all of that. So, or in individuals with liver dysfunction, because it is the liver that creates the proteins that maintains the oncotic pressure, which draws water from the tissues and ensures that there is enough water in blood that maintains the pressure. So now, having said this, now let's look at how edema happens. I will start by asking you questions, having explained this. If the plasma protein levels, especially albumin, because there are three types of plasma proteins. Have the globulin, albumin, and fibrinogen. But albumin is the greatest in terms of number and also in terms of molecular size. So that is the one that contributes more to the maintenance of osmotic pressure. So now, if the level of albumin increases, how will it affect water in the interstitium?
Decrease.
Good. So now let's flip it. A decrease in the amount of water in the interstitium. Is that edema?
No, it'd be the opposite.
So it's taking in too much
Good.
water.
Good. So enough albumin removes water from the tissue, which means less albumin keeps water in the tissue. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, when there is hypoalbuminemia, or let's cut it short, when the oncotic pressure is low, edema is likely to happen. That is oncotic pressure is the pressure exerted by the normal amount of albumin in plasma. So when plasma oncotic pressure decreases, then the capacity to draw water from the interstitial decreases, and water remains in the tissue and continues to swell. And I say that oncotic pressure is the same thing as colloid osmotic pressure. So is this clear now? Is this clear?
Yes.
How this causes to everybody? Hajjot, is this clear? Good. So number 2 has been explained. A decrease in oncotic pressure or a decrease in colloid osmotic pressure will lead to what? Accumulation of fluid in the tissue. Number 1 is increased hydrostatic pressure, increased capillary hydrostatic pressure. Now, can you see this? Okay. What is capillary hydrostatic pressure? It is the pressure in the capillaries due to the amount of water in the blood. Okay? Hydro stands for water. So the pressure in the capillary due to the amount of water in plasma. So we are now saying that increase in hydrostatic pressure is going to increase edema. Let's see how. If this quantity of blood here is 200 mils, and the pressure in this is 45 millimeter mercury. Let me put this. I'm going to expand this. If this is the size, please look up. This is what we call the endothelial pores. If this is the size of this pore, when 200 mils of blood is coming in, and when the pressure is this pore is this. If for any reason we increase this to 600 mils, eventually the pressure can go to 120, for example. The size will now be something like this. Does that make sense?
Pressure is directly correlated to the amount of blood. Is that what you're trying to say?
What?
So 200, did you say 200 mils is a minimum pressure or the what?
I'm trying to reduce it in this most, I can say it in several ways, but I want you to understand it in a simplistic way. The more the volume, the more the pressure. The more the volume, the more the pressure. But what I'm looking at now is the size. So, which of these will allow more movement of water from blood, or movement of water and other materials from blood to the tissues? This, right?
Yeah.
Good. So you can see that once the pressure increases, the change is because of the amount of water. So once the pressure changes because of increase in water volume,
Water volume.
the tendency for more water to leave into the tissues and accumulate increases. Does that make sense? So does that answer number 1? Does that clear it out?
Yes.
Number 1 is not different from number 3. It's the same thing, but the same terminology, different terminology. So, when the gap of the endothelial pore increases, right, the permeability also increases. The permeability of the capillary increases. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So have we cleared number 3? Is number 3 clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Why I'm saying this, you just have to say, sometimes I present it, which of the following is true about edema. And people will mix it up and then mess the whole thing up. Is as simple as that. You don't have to cram it. So just understand the principle. So increase, for example, I say which of the following is true about the development of edema, and I say decreased capillary permeability, and somebody will go and choose it. It's wrong, right? It's wrong. So once you have that pictorial evidence and you understand it's clear, you can always pick it out. So increase in hydrostatic pressure is directly related to what? Increase in capillary permeability. All right? Let me ask one funny question. What if, perchance, by whatever reason, these proteins become more? If for whatever reason, proteins, instead of occurring more in the blood, occur now more in the interstitial. So what happens? So if we flip this now,
What do we have?
increase in colloid osmotic pressure. When there is too much, assuming, this one is going to cause edema, right? And if we have increase of this, not in the blood now, assuming we have okay, let's say the proteins are more now here, to the extent that we don't even have, the proteins are more here now.
Do we not have enough fluid?
Is it going to cause edema?
Would it be lack of fluid?
You want to go into a place where there's more proteins.
Yeah, if we have the proteins now more in the interstitial, is it going to cause edema? Yes. Decrease colloid osmotic pressure means that protein is more in. As simple as that. So, if we now, you can put this in bracket. It simply means that proteins is the same thing if proteins are more in the interstitial. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I keep asking, if it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense. But once it makes sense, it makes sense. So, once it doesn't make sense to you, that's the only way you can pass this course. I can assure you. The only way you can pass this course and pass this without stress is once I say something and it doesn't make sense to you. Once it's cleared up, go home, you read it, it sticks. Okay? So don't keep silent if it doesn't make. That's why I keep asking you, does it make sense? It must make sense, because that is science. Alright? So, the last, now at the end of the day, let's move on to this. What did I say? This is a lymphatic vessel, right? That also functions in taking away fluid. How it does that, don't worry. We'll talk about it when we get to the lymphatic system. Simply, if this is blocked, will fluid exit through this means?
No.
So, lymphatic obstruction can also cause edema. As simple as that. And then the last but not the least is that by the time, just an example of this tissue is what? Kidney. So the kidney itself receives what? Also receives blood through the renal artery. And the normal function of this kidney is to do what? As we saw in water balance, right? Is to manage what? To manage acid base, manage water, right? That's what we saw, ADH, acting on the kidney, to either remove more water or bring more water, depending on the condition. So, but if the kidney fails in doing that, in performing that function, water is going to remain in the blood, right? If kidney fails, just like in dialysis, most of the metabolites cannot be cleared out of the body. So they are retained in the body, including water. All right?
Causing higher blood pressure.
Of course. Crazy things happen. Crazy things. Crazy things happen. So that's why in dialysis it's not something we do almost as regular as recommended. Otherwise, several metabolites increase in the blood, high blood pressure, acidosis, and even up, the individual can even become, starts having neurological issues, shock and coma and all of that. Yeah.
Blood cats. Blood cats when they're unable to urinate due to a blockage in their urethra. You'll see the increase in potassium and then neurological signs.
Yeah.
Dr. Marianne was telling us about it yesterday.
Mhm. So, the concept of edema is not something you should worry, you should struggle with, right? The causes of edema. When we get to renal physiology, we can talk about how to really clear it with some drugs through diuresis. Okay, so let's go for our break.